Okay, now we're going to go through the various steps that are required to be able to connect to a serial connection from your computer to your Micrologix 1100 PLC. The first step in doing so is installing the driver. I have a separate video for that, so please, if you have not installed the driver on your computer, it would be a new computer if it needed the driver installed. There's a video for that, so go check that out. This is after the driver is installed. We're actually going to set up the driver to communicate with our PLC. So what we're going to do is determine which port that we're in. So when you plug in your RS-232 to USB cable, what I want you to do is plug the cable in the port that is closest to your screen on your laptop. So if you have multiple USB ports, most of the computers do, there would be one that is closer to you, closer to the operator of the computer. Don't use that one. Use the one that is closer to the screen, and then we'll always go back to that. Every student will go back to that on the computer, and we know that we're using the same configured port every time. Once you have the USB cable inserted into your PC, make sure you get to your serial cable connected to the PLC and turn your PLC on. Then down here in the lower left-hand screen, we want to go to Device Manager. And when the dialog box for Device Manager gets called up, it's going to have a whole bunch of devices here. We're just worried about the ports, our COM ports, and if you hit the greater than symbol next to the ports, you will get a drop down that's going to show just our cable. And on my particular computer, the USB cable in that port that I said is closest to the screen is COM port 3. On different computers, it will be different COM ports. It just has to do with the configuration of the computer and what else has been installed. So on this particular computer, it's COM port 3. We're going to need that in the next step. I'm just going to minimize this. And now I want to come down here in the type here to search box and go to RS Links. It's L-Y-N-X. I'm sorry, L-I-N-X. RSLINX. Classic. And it will pull up. This is to set up any communications. And when we get deeper into Allen Bradley, we can set up all sorts of communications using this software. In this case, we're just setting up our USB cable. I do have a couple other configurations that are showing in the Explorer window over here. I have a couple Ethernet cards, and then I even have some emulation software that I can use to emulate a PLC and not even be connected to one. The serial connection that we need is not in my list, so we're going to have to set that up. So if you come up to Communications and you go to Configure Drivers, it'll show the list of the already installed drivers. So I have my two Ethernets in my emulator. I want to add a new driver. So I'm going to come over here to this drop-down box that says Available Driver Types. I'm going to drop it down, and there's one that should say RS-232 DF1 Devices. Select that one. RS-232 is a serial communication protocol. That's what this cable is going to use. It's going to use RS-232, RS-485. We'll see that in here in just a minute. Once you've selected that, click Add New. And it gives us a default name, which I do not like. I want everybody to change the name to USB, and you can't have a space in there, so you have to have an underscore and then cable. It's very descriptive. It tells me exactly what the device is that we're connecting in. Okay. Once you hit OK, you're going to be brought up the RS-232 device dialog box. Now, here is where we needed to know what COM port the USB cable was in. For my particular computer, it was in COM port 3. Now, in yours, it might be different. So whatever COM port you found under the Device Manager, please use that here for COM ports. For device, we actually have a Micrologix 1100. So there's several different devices that you can connect to serially with this cable. We want to scroll down here till we have the SLC 500 / micro / panel view. Those are the three different components that we could use this cable to connect to with this particular device protocol. In our case, we're looking for the Micrologix 1100, so we want that micro that is in the middle there. So select that, and then for the baud rate, the station number, parity, all of that, leave all that set to the default settings. And then we just want to press this auto configure. Now this is not going to work if you don't have your cable connected in and your PLC on. So make sure your cable is connected in the port in both the PC and the PLC, and that your PLC is on. And then you click auto configure, and you should get auto configure successful, because if you've selected everything properly, it should automatically set everything up for you. And then you hit OK. And now we notice that we have the USB cable. And if you notice now it says 485 here. So it noticed that that was not a 232 protocol that the Micrologix uses. It's actually an RS-485. That's above what we're trying to learn here. But it, in that auto configure, noticed, hey, I'm going to use RS-485 for this communication. And it's actually much faster than 232, so we're in luck there. So now we have a installed or configured driver ready to go on this PC. It's not necessarily associated with our RS Logix 500 program yet. We're going to do that next. So here, we're done here. We can go ahead and close this. We can go ahead and leave this RS Links Classic window active. I'm just going to minimize it. We may need to come back to here. Now I'm going to open up my RS Logix 500 English. And I'm going to get this warning because I'm at home instead of at school. This is the software without a program written in it. We're going to go ahead and just enter a new program. And in doing so, we get to name the processor. I'm just going to name this for a particular station. And if your station is different, please use that station number. So I'm just going to type ML for Micrologix. And then if you're at 2A, just put O2A. And that will let the instructor know that this program was actually downloaded on that PLC. If we come and have to do any diagnostic or troubleshooting on your program, we know what station to go to easily, not have to look it up. And then we want to select the proper controller. So this Micrologix 500 Pro can configure all these different types of Allen Bradley controllers. We actually have the Micrologix, we have the 1100, and we also have the Series B, which is the 24-volt version. So we want to select Micrologix 1100 Series B. And down here it'll say, hey, what driver are you using to communicate with this thing? It already notices that you have a cable connected and active, so it selected that. There are the other options that I had in my RS Links Classic suite there. You may not have all of those. We're just going to be using the USB cable throughout this course. So that is our selection. And then we're going to hit OK. We're going to get a blank program here. And what we want to do now is associate the actual controller that is connected to that PLC, to that cable, to this PLC program. So we're going to come to controller properties. And if you notice, there's the selection that we just made, the 1100 Series B. You could change it here if we wanted to have this program run on a different model of controller. We only have one, so you don't have to worry about that. And you notice the processor name is there as well. We're going to go to the tab that says Controller Communications. So here, I've already associated this with the USB cable, but we're just going to go through all the steps to make sure that if you are starting brand new from scratch, you're not going to have that association. So your window right here could actually just be a white box with nothing connected. I'm going to show you the steps on how we can actually do that. So you want to come up here to driver box. If it's not already selected, you want to go through that list. Here again is that suite of ways I can communicate. And I want to select this USB cable. Okay. Then I want to select Who Active. Okay. And what Who Active is going to do is go through all those different types of protocols that are set up. Yours, again, may not be this entire list, and look to see what is active. And here on my USB cable, it notices that I have a workstation, and then it even notices, hey, you've got a Micrologix 1100 on there. Now, previously, I'd actually called that controller MWL. That's why it's showing there. Once we make the connection, it's going to show up as ML. I believe I said O2A. Okay, but you just want to select that, saying, hey, that's the one I want to connect this program to, and just hit OK. And then you want to come down and hit Apply. When you hit Apply, in your case, you're now going to see USB cable Node 1D local show up in this box. And that means we have a good association between those two. And now we hit OK. You have successfully been able to connect your PC to your PLC. We're just going to actually go ahead and test out our program. I'm just going to write a extremely simple program here, where I am going to just take the very first input and tie it to the very first output. Okay. So I have some sort of program to download. Okay. So now I have one rung, which has 2 instructions in it. I am going to download that just to ensure that we are going to be able to communicate. It's going to want me to save the program before I So I'm just going to say this is a test program. It wants me to pick a different location to put this. So I'm going to put it in my particular. And you may have this issue as well sometimes. Okay, so it saved the program. If you notice up here, it says test RSS. And now it says, hey, do you want to take, and notice there's the controller name that we gave it, MLO2A, and download it into a controller that's actually labeled MWL. Those are my initials. I was running a test program before this. And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it says, hey, that controller is running right now. Do you want to take it out of run mode to do this? And we say yes. You may notice that your computer, your PLC, you'll hear a little click in the PLC because it stopped running. Now here it says the communication is different. My controller name is different. Some other settings that I have were different. And you might get this warning. Just go ahead and hit apply. And then it says, I had an Ethernet channel configuration set up. Now I don't. That's what that warning was. Don't worry about that. You shouldn't get that because we're not using any Ethernet communications currently. And I was able to successfully download my simple program. And I can push on my e-stop and I can see it energize and de-energize there in the program because we have a good running program. Okay, that was how to connect your PC to your PLC using a serial connection. Now we have other avenues that we can explore using Ethernet and using Modbus. We'll look at those in the future. But for the duration of this class, we will be connecting through this USB serial connection, and we will be using this configuration every time. Please, if you have any questions, ask your instructor and we'll get you straightened out, and we'll see you in the next video.